Kei te mangai ki raro tēnei.
Question is that the motion be agreed to.
Yeah.
Claire Curran.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank you to the Minister for his speech. Thank you to the Minister for his engagement during the debate on this bill. Tonight it feels as if there has truly been a meaningful debate with some meaning in this House on a piece of legislation in which actually we are in agreement on, because Labor supports this bill. As I think everyone will have noticed, that we have reservations, but actually having a real debate where the questions are asked and there is an attempt to engage and to answer them is what this Parliament should be doing on every single piece of legislation, where the questions, where there is genuine debate and genuine engagement from the other side of the House. So I would like to make that point because I think it's an important point, and I do hope that there are members listening and taking note of that. There is too much debate, too much superficial debate in this Parliament on important pieces of legislation where the other side of the House refuses to engage because they want to push a piece of legislation through. So all credit to the Minister who has genuinely attempted to answer some of the questions that have been raised, even if those answers aren't necessarily as fulsome as we would like. They have been genuine attempts, and we acknowledge that. I do want to again make mention of the importance of Maori television to our country and as a great example of what can be done in the area of public broadcasting. Maori television has become, as has been noted by a number of people tonight, the default public television broadcaster in New Zealand. However, it does not have the mandate to be a full public television broadcaster. It does not have the funding to be a full public television broadcaster. But because there is a gap for public television in this country, it has ably attempted to fulfil that, although its primary mandate is around the promotion of te reo and the importance of te reo in New Zealand, and we absolutely applaud that and support it. And again tonight I want to acknowledge the work done by Parakura Horamia on helping to set up Maori television, and his vision lives on and hopefully will live on for many decades to come through this broadcaster. And on that, going to the appointment process of the important appointment process of the new chief executive, which has taken up much time in the debate tonight, we on this side of the House are watching that very closely. I think that there is a will in New Zealand for Maori television to lead the way, and to do that it must be above all question and must not have any shadows hanging over it in terms of how it is being run and the governance structures and the way that those decisions are being made. And I certainly think those points have been made well tonight, and I certainly think that the Minister has been listening. I also want to acknowledge the work done in Select Committee by all members of the Select Committee, and in particular by my colleagues Shane Jones and Parakura before he passed away, Nanaia Mahuta and Rino Tirakatani, who were all members on that committee and who all have contributed today in the House on this issue. Also, a number of the issues that were raised, and my colleague Chris Farfoy, who has been very vigorously debating the issues around spectrum and its management and how it's going to be used. But those issues that were raised in the Select Committee must also remain on the record, and that is the composition of and the governance of the Electoral College Te Putahi Pāho, and how that is working out. I think that it's certainly tonight there has been constructive discussion around that. It feels as if there is constructive movement towards resolving some of those issues, but I certainly want to make sure that the House knows that how that plays out and how that management and governance arrangement plays out will certainly be being watched very closely in the future on the general management of Maori television as well as the management of that spectrum, because our concern is that there are other plans, or there may be other plans. I've heard what the Minister said tonight around the future use of that spectrum, around lifting the bar about quality as well as quantity of programming on Maori television. But we certainly are concerned that there may be other plans for that may impinge upon the ability of Maori television to develop in the way that it could and should in our country in the next 10 years. And also the issues that issue remains, and also another issue, Mr. Speaker, which is a critical issue, and it's a wider issue because it goes to the government's management of spectrum generally, right across the board. And this is a very topical issue at the moment, because if we are going to embrace a the digital environment, both in broadcasting but also across into the mobile technology space, then we have to have a consistent, logical plan that has the interests of New Zealanders at its heart and is about a true competitive environment in the technology, the mobile technology space, and in the broadcasting space, is about the ability for all New Zealanders to access television services and to receive a high quality service through their public broadcasting taxpayer funded money. So unfortunately, though, at the moment, Mr. Speaker, we do not have that. We do not have a strategy. We do not have a plan. It's all very ad hoc. And we saw yesterday, the Minister of ICT, Amy Adams, make an announcement that she was going to put out the remaining spectrum in the 700 megahertz band, which is the ICT side of it, the mobile technology side of it, which could have been and should have been held back for strategic purposes. Oh no, in order to make a quick buck, because that's where the government's at, it's going to be put out to the highest bidder through auction. And what we could end up with, what we are likely to end up with, is an environment that is not as competitive as it could and should be, and where there is likely to be moving into those 1990s approach to a monopoly in an important growth market for New Zealand. And then we also have, as has been mentioned by myself and Chris Farfoy, the handback, the interesting and somewhat inexplicable last-minute handback of an important body of spectrum by Sky TV, this is in the broadcasting environment, to the Crown at the last minute, with no idea, no public discussion about why, about what deal was done. What deal was done around that, how that's going to be used, whether that's going to be, some of that is going to be kept aside for the public arena, or whether that's going to be hocked off as well. And these are important questions. They go to the government's ability to manage an important market. This is a market and an environment that crosses broadcasting and the telecommunications space. It's called convergence, in case the members on that side still haven't woken up to the fact that that has already happened, and that there should be a strategy in place. Unfortunately, there isn't, and these things are being managed in a very ad hoc way. The government really is hanging its head a bit at the moment, because, to be honest, none of them could get up and give a speech on this topic. and that is what is required. But on this bill, we support this bill. We have reservations about it. We will be watching the governance processes very closely. We'll be watching the appointment process very closely of the new Chief Executive, and we will certainly be providing a comprehensive strategy for the management of these important parts of our economy and our broadcasting environment.
Claudette Hawiti.
At this time, I would like to acknowledge and thank Sir Graham Latimer, who was